the sun comes up on America, across open fields, small towns, and city streets, a new day begins. And here, we rise with it. This is where hard work meets headlines, where truth matters, and America wakes up informed.
An interesting week.
They all are.
This is your country. This is your morning. This is Daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. America, let's do it together.
Love you, Ivy.
Love you too.
And it starts right now.
Welcome to Daybreak Live from Washington, D.C. Short night after the president's speech, but we've got a lot of work to do here today. We're going to skip the big three today because the big three are all the same. And that is the release of documents. You can find them at whitehouse.gov, whitehouse.gov. Several different points made by the president last night. I want to jump right back into it. He put out 5 areas of concern, but maybe the most startling was that the People's Republic of China in 2020 compromised 220 million voter files. That's you. That's me. Name, address, how you vote. Are you registered as a Republican or a Democrat or as an independent? Think about that. China has access to 220 million voter files. Most of you listening, me included, I'm sure. And what did they do with that information? Well, you remember those strange circumstances back when you heard people saying they went to the ballot box, went to the precinct to vote, and were told, well, I'm sorry, Mrs. Smith, you've already voted. No, I haven't. It says here you voted. You can fill out a provisional ballot, but at that point, it's too late because the ballot that went through for Mrs. Smith had already been counted. It didn't come back out because once it's mixed in with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of other voters, it just gets into the mix. It's like trying to pull a piece of flour out of a pancake. It doesn't work that way. She can fill out a provisional ballot, but she's already been neutralized. Her vote has already been compromised. The president talked about this last night, 220 million American voters like you and I being compromised. Listen to this.
They show that over a period of years, starting during the 2020 election cycle, the People's Republic of China carried out what is believed to be the largest compromise of election data in history, resulting in China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files. That information includes names, addresses, phone numbers, political party preferences, and other sensitive data that would be needed to register to vote and engage in other nefarious activities, which is exactly what was happening. This data loss presents an unprecedented election security nightmare. The intelligence even shows that China assigned a data exploitation unit specifically to this new project. Compounding the travesty, the second set of documents we are releasing reveals that members of the deep state, very, very famous group of people, in many cases, in our intelligence agency work to actively suppress and downplay information about the extent of China's sinister election meddling, covering it up from both the president and the American people like nobody thought was possible.
So I just watched John Solomon from an appearance he did on CBS last night, and they asked him, well, there's nothing new here. And he said, no, there's nothing new here because you haven't reported on these things because they just became available. There's one document in there where one woman from the FBI says they actively massaged, that's the word she used, massaged the president's daily brief to keep out any information about the election. They knew the Chinese had gotten into at least 18 states, at least 18. The investigation continues. The heads of all the intelligence agencies signed off on the president's speech last night saying it is accurate. John Solomon says he did not stray from that speech, that he stayed on point, and he stayed with the facts. I just watched Catherine Herridge on News Nation, and she said from her reporting, this is exactly accurate. So what the American people have today at whitehouse.gov is a chance to go and fact check. The question is, will networks like NBC and ABC, who refused to carry the speech last night, and CNN, who refused to carry the speech last night, Will they do the actual hard work, the work that John Solomon has been doing for years, along with others, to dig deeper, to get to the facts, to find out why these facts were hidden from the president? And that memo saying the presidential daily briefing was being massaged was November of 2020. Are there enough fair-minded Americans out there to say, well, if China accessed our voter rolls and people went to the polls and were told they had already voted, isn't it time to do something? Alaska was one of the states that was compromised. Will Lisa Murkowski finally wake up and get on board with the Save America Act? Now, the Save America Act at this point, probably too late for the midterms. It's an important piece of legislation, a great piece of legislation that should absolutely be passed. But right now, what do you do to secure the midterm elections that are, 100 days out? Early voting starts in something like 65 days in late September. It's time to get to some facts. It is Free Speech, Free for All Friday as well. Brought to you by my friends at Patriot Mobile, the Common Sense Hotline, 877-310-9966. We're going to take some of your calls here today as well. I'll take Kevin in San Diego to start. Kevin, good morning.
Good morning, Steve. I did not get a mail-in ballot. The rest of my family did. I didn't get one. So that means that I had to go down and actually physically vote. I am so pissed off because all that meant is that all my vote did was negate the one that somebody else made for me. This has got to stop. This has just got to stop.
Let me ask you this, Kevin. Let me ask you this.
Yes.
What do you say to the Republicans like John Thune that are actively sitting on their hands and doing nothing to defend this country against foreign intervention? To me, others don't see it this way, but I would suggest that the Chinese Communist Party coming into our voter rolls to study you, Kevin, to study me, is an act of war. What do you think of that?
I absolutely agree. And history is going to remember these. I got to keep it clean.
Yes, you do.
History's going to remember them, and it's not going to be in a good light. And they need to realize that.
Kevin, thank you for calling today. Let me jump over to Paul. He is in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, one of the states that was very suspect in the election of 2020. Kevin, good morning. Excuse me, Paul.
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, I live in Pennsylvania, and this is one of our states that is compromised with this. I blame our governor for doing nothing. Of course, he's a Democrat. But my question is, or my comment and question is, now I think the president explained everything that was brought up earlier by the Clintons and Obama and back then. And why are these people still on the loop? Why have they not been arrested? Because
well, here's why. Let me take that question, Paul. And I appreciate the phone call. I've got to hit a break, but let me take that question because this is new information just being declassified. And the president said last night, investigate, arrest those who need to be arrested. And so this is a long way from being over. And Jay Johnson, the Secretary of Homeland Security under Barack Obama, called election security critical infrastructure, which means the president doesn't need to do anything except say that our critical infrastructure is under fire. More of Free Speech, Free for All Friday, and your calls here on Daybreak coming up. All right, jumping right back in on this Free Speech Free for All Friday, powered by Patriot Mobile. The hotline 877-310-9966. I want to continue to sort out what was said last night by the president from the East Room at the White House. The CIA in its reporting, and you can find all of this at whitehouse.gov. Tremendous amounts of documents. The CIA reporting that the Chinese Communist Party policy was to leverage all elements of what they knew and what they had done to prevent the re-election of Donald Trump. The Democrats screamed Russia, Russia, Russia after 2016. That was false. Donald Trump's telling the truth about China, and the mainstream media is saying it's false. They haven't even checked the documents. The documents are all there, and more coming, by the way. And in fact, the Department of Homeland Security today, Markwayne Mullin, the secretary, will be making important announcements at 11 o'clock this morning. All big news, all of it. I want to share something else with you. Here's Donald Trump going after China. He did it several times. Here's more.
China engaged in other election-related activities to undermine my first administration and our 2020 campaign. They did not want, and they just didn't want it. They fought like hell not to have it, Donald Trump, to win, and for good reason. As the documents we are releasing show, CIA reporting explicitly stated, and I quote, in mid-2018, the Chinese Communist Party's policy was to leverage all domestic and foreign elements that were opposed to the U.S. president in an effort to reduce the U.S. president's votes and make him resign or prevent his re-election. Isn't that nice? Also, in mid-2018, China was working to influence the results of the U.S. midterm elections and later the results of the 2020 presidential election itself. Separately, in mid-2019, the Chinese government's strategy against the United States was focused on undermining domestic confidence in the U.S. president. They wanted to just make you sound like your president wasn't so hot, when actually your president has done a great job, and they did everything possible to do exactly that. Going on, this document says, and this is by the CIA, the strategy included efforts to use Chinese contacts with big U.S. companies to influence U.S. business leaders to turn against the President of the United States of America.
And he goes on to say, and to leverage journalists, your media, Chinese Communist Party influencing business leaders and journalists to write negative articles to undermine the Trump presidency. Let's go to Mike in upstate New York. Mike, good morning.
Hey, good morning, Steve. Greetings from upstate New York.
Yes, sir.
Hey, I actually wanted to make a comment about Second Amendment rights in New York, but prior to that, I just say that my cynical nature tells me that the reason why Thune and these people are so slow to get on board with issues is that if they actually win things, they lose the issue and maybe their job down the road, right? They don't really want to win. That's what I feel like some of these Republicans are doing these days.
I feel like they're stalling. I feel like they're stalling. I don't want to talk about the Second Amendment today, Mike. I apologize, because but for the elections and but for secure elections, the Second Amendment would be irrelevant, because the socialists
good enough
will take care. Will take it away from you, right? And my focus is on everything that we're seeing here. I mean, maybe New York would have elected a Republican governor, right? Maybe. Who knows how compromised New York is?
Yeah, we almost got what's his name? There's Eldon, right? Almost.
Right. You came close. Exactly. Maybe you did. Yeah. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Nobody knows for sure, Mike.
Yeah,
I really appreciate
I'll tell you something. Over the last couple, I've come to the conclusion that the 2020 election actually was stolen.
Yeah. Appreciate the call from New York. Let's go to Pete in Tennessee. We're going to go to our state in the heart of the country. Pete, good morning.
Yes, sir. Real quick, one thing I want to add to this thing about this vote, he needs to declare an emergency and take over the voting all over the country. We have got to have paper ballots. Number two is we've got ID. But you know something people ain't talking about, and I know they've got the technology, they've had it, is when you go to vote, not only do you show ID, you have to lay your hand on one of those fingerprint things where it scans it, and it's got you'll have your fingerprints there to the ballot, okay? That way, there ain't no line no more. The military has
There's
had
no cheating
that
then. You're right. Pete, let me tell you this, though, and I appreciate the call. But Jay Johnson, the Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security during Barack Obama's tenure, he declared that elections were critical infrastructure, and he did not specify that it was machines or mail-in ballots or anything else. He just said elections are critical infrastructure. I don't believe the president has to establish or declare an emergency. I believe he already has that power today. Let's go to Jim in Tennessee before I run out of time. Jim, good morning. We got about a minute.
Yes. I just wanted to bring up that I'm always talking to people everywhere I go. I try to make people realize what's going on in our country. And I'd say over half still don't know what's happening. We need to get it out there better to the people.
Doing the best I can,
You
Jim.
there?
Greatly appreciate the call. Yes, I appreciate your call, and you're right. More people need to see the truth. But fact of the matter is, when ABC and NBC and CNN refuse to run the speech at all because they say it's false information or unsubstantiated, well, the documents are there. They can either look at the documents at whitehouse.gov like I've been doing and Catherine Herridge has been doing and John Solomon has been doing. They can look at the facts, or they can continue to ignore it because they don't like what the facts lead to, which is pointing out that the mainstream news networks dropped the ball. They failed miserably at doing their jobs. It's pretty crystal clear this morning. More of Free Speech, Free for All Friday coming up on Daybreak. All right, let's continue with your calls this morning. I'm going to have a lot more of the president's comments and yours as well as we dig deeper into the election fraud and the cover-up by the intelligence community. Think Comer, Clapper, Brennan. Think about these people who played games early on, and then those that played games for the next 4 years. Let's go to Vince in Kentucky. Vince, good morning. How are you?
Fine. Thanks for having me. I'm from Hodgenville, Kentucky. That happens to be Abraham Lincoln's birthplace. And I am fearful for our country and fearful for my kids and my grandkids. And talking to different one of them, they don't see the seriousness in it. I listened to a little over an hour of Fox Network this morning, and they never mentioned last night's speech.
Yeah, you know why? Because Fox wants to talk about the war. They are the PR wing of the military-industrial complex. They want to talk about Iran. They want to talk about the war. Well, they don't want to talk about election integrity because that network has also dropped the ball. Vince, there's no question about it. That network has also dropped the ball. Really appreciate you being here.
I'm an avid listener of Real America's Voice all day. And I thank you all for your reporting.
We're doing our level best to get the information out there. Those on the big platforms are doing their level best to keep you in the dark. Got a lot more phone calls piled up, and we'll get to all of them, and more comments from the president. You know what I'm looking forward to, though, is this. I'm looking forward to being home in my actual bed tomorrow because it's a ghost bed. I have not slept well this week. I didn't sleep much last night because I was still up working late to make sure you had all the information you needed here this morning. If you want the American-made ghost bed, I'm telling you, folks, you're going to love it. I sleep like a stone. And you have 101 days to try it out. Bring it to your house, set it up, sleep on it. If you're not in love with it the way I am, that's okay. They'll come to your house and pick it up, no questions asked. I think you will love it. Ghostbed.com/Gruber. Use that promo code Gruber. You're going to save 10% off the best price of the year. Ghostbed.com/Gruber. Promo code is Gruber. More of your phone calls, powered by Patriot Mobile's Common Sense Hotline after this. All right, let's just jump right back into it now. What is remarkable to me is that the intelligence community, the shadow government, as it was called by one FBI agent whose emails have been revealed, she put it in writing. That's the remarkable thing, that she had set up a shadow government to go after Donald Trump. And so the intel community at the FBI bragged about undermining the Trump administration. Listen to this.
NSA reports about China's election targeting were kept out of the presidential briefing. These were briefings I would get almost every day. Everything was kept out that was of importance. One email among intelligence analysts admitted that they had, quote, deliberately massaged the presidential daily briefing to withhold information regarding Chinese activities related to the election. Another official inside the FBI wrote that she was running, quote, a shadow government, unquote, to keep intelligence about China's election meddling from becoming known and to keep it away from the honorable press. Other officials who witnessed such efforts perceived the motivations to be blatantly political. Recently, we found bags that were used to destroy information given.
Burn bags. Burn bags is what he's going to say. They were supposed to be destroyed. Information, he said, included information about Barack Obama, but somehow they didn't get destroyed. Oversight, he said, I don't think so. He says, I think we got lucky from incompetence. What we're learning here is shocking. The intelligence community, in effect, was working to protect the Chinese Communist Party from detection by the president, the commander-in-chief of the United States. Ray is in Florida today. Ray, good morning. What's on your mind?
Hello, sir. It's so good to talk to you. I'll make this as quickly as possible. As someone who watched the election from start to finish in 2020 and saw all the investigations and all the committee hearings, I could not understand what had happened, but understood. Why don't we go back to one-day voting? Why do we have to have machines? Why can't we have paper ballots, as was discussed last night, even if the SAVE Act cannot be passed immediately? I'm all for it, and I am just appalled that this is going on. One more thing, and I'll leave you. The Iran thing, those are MAGA that are on the fence, need to get off the fence and stick with the party. He knows what he's doing. As someone who flew to Iran before and after the war, I worked for an airline back in the day and did all the airlifts, volunteered for the airlifts to get the Americans out. But there's so much going on in this government, and we don't get rid of Thune. We need to get rid of Thune, actually. And,
yeah, I don't disagree with that, Ray. Got to leave it there for this morning. I gotta move on, but I appreciate that. John Thune, do your damn job. Do your job, because there are piles of irrefutable evidence at this point that not only were the elections compromised by the Chinese, that was covered up by the intelligence community, a shadow government. It's not speculation, it's in writing. The documents, again, available at whitehouse.gov. Phil is in Michigan. Phil, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Steve. How about for a moment of levity, a short joke? Steve,
say again.
What's the difference between a hippo and a Zippo?
I give up.
Hippo's
all right.
A huge beast, and a Zippo's a little lighter.
All right, let's move on. Let's go to Steve in West Virginia. Steve, how are you today?
Your
Serious
crew and your wife.
Thank you.
I'm an American citizen. I'm an American voter. Always have been my whole life. When I go to the polls, I vote. Why is it that they have given or taking my vote, put it on a machine? I should be able to designate the way I vote, one that I can trust, whether it's paper ballot, mail-in ballot, or in person. The paper ballot should be passed. And also, I wanted to tell you that Mr. Trump, he got the perfect reason to get rid of the media out of the White House and off Air Force One.
I greatly appreciate your call. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate you checking in. One of the reporters asked last night, I guess it was Caroline Levitt during the briefing yesterday, why did Donald Trump not lose in 2024 if the elections had been manipulated? And she smiled and she said, too big to rig. When enough of us turn out, they can't overturn it. They can't manipulate it without being out in the open and being caught. Too big to rig. That's why voting in the midterm elections is incredibly important. You might not have faith in your particular polling place, and I can understand that. But that was the intent of the Chinese to begin with, to undermine the credibility of American elections, to manipulate the outcomes. The way you overcome that is with massive turnout. Massive turnout. Let's go to Ernie in South Carolina. Ernie, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to you. I agree with just about everything everybody has said so far this morning. I wanted to add, I'm in South Carolina. My mother, 90 years old, was a huge, huge Trump fan. She was in a nursing home. And I took her to vote. She was so excited in 2020. And we got to the voting place, and they said she had already voted. We went to
there it is.
Local.
There it is.
In South Carolina.
That's what was happening. You just nailed it, Ernie. When people like your mother would show up because her voter roll had been compromised, a vote was cast in her name by God only knows who or how, right? There's exactly what I'm talking about. Go on.
I suspect that it was someone in the nursing home because they said they had a signed piece of paper, and I know her better than her doing that because she was so excited. She'd go to the grocery store and talk about Trump. Anybody that would listen. So we got to clean this up everywhere.
We got to clean it up. Yeah,
it's
Ernie, good call.
It's not just the blue states.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Ernie, good call. And here is the exact problem. Ernie takes his mom to vote. You've already voted. No, I haven't. Well, you can fill out a provisional ballot. That's all fine and well, except that the vote that was cast in Ernie's mom's name has already gone into the system. It's already been counted. So even if she does cast a provisional ballot, it doesn't subtract that one and add hers. They just cancel each other out. It's a big problem. All of it is a big problem. Make sure your home is secure with Home Title Lock. For 250 years, the promise of America has been freedom to build something, but too many criminals out there can gather your information, just like the Chinese did, and then sign some documents and put your house or your property in their name. How frightening. Right now, my audience gets 25% off up to 2 years of title fraud protection. It's $100 in savings plus a free title history report. HomeTitleLock.com. Promo code Gruber25. HomeTitleLock.com. Promo code Gruber25. Don't end up being a news story about how your house was stolen right out from under you. I'll be back with a constitutional lawyer to discuss what we learned last night after this. All right, welcome back. It is dangerous to know that ABC and NBC didn't carry the speech. Fox News this morning not covering it at all. Maybe the most consequential speech in years, because we know that the Chinese compromised 220 million voter roll in 220 million Americans, their voter information has been compromised. And in Michigan, where I live, other issues. Here's what the president said about that.
The fourth set of documents reveals that even when significant evidence of fraud has been detected, it has been buried and covered up. Among the disclosures tonight are FBI files detailing evidence of alleged fraud by a large-scale voter registration operation in Michigan. In 2020, Michigan State Police raided a Democrat Get Out the Vote organization, corrupt group in Muskegon. And we're so concerned by what they found. They were just so concerned. They couldn't believe it, actually, that they contacted the FBI in Detroit. The documents state that some canvassers admitted to FBI agents that they signed voter registration forms in other people's names, submitted fraudulent registration for people who did not exist, and received gift cards tied to their number of applications that they produced. In other words, it was pay, play, and cheat. The FBI agents working on the case believe that crimes were committed, yet the Biden Department of Justice slow-walked the investigation and killed it. Tonight, I'm asking the FBI.
They killed it. They killed the investigation. He's reopening the investigation. Joining me now, David Kallman, a Michigan attorney, constitutional attorney at the Kallman Law Group in Lansing, Michigan. David, nice to see you this morning. Look, if you're getting paid to fill out applications for ballots, that's illegal. That's a felony. And yet it sounds to me like it was completely done. That's nice, David. So what are you a man collecting signatures? Well done, David. Good morning.
I'm sorry, Steve. I was supposed to take that off. Dr. Fauci ordered us all in Michigan to use masks again because of the wildfires in Canada. So I'm just doing what I'm told. That's all. I'll take it off now. Sorry.
That's the problem. Too many people are doing what they're told, David. Too many people. And too many people don't listen. Here's what's shocking. You just said you watched Fox News this morning, the early edition, the 6 o'clock edition, until you came in to do this conversation here. Not one mention of this consequential speech where they have put out the documents at whitehouse.gov. The documents are there. But the Democrats have so flooded the zone with nonsense and lies, the mainstream media won't even cover it. What is wrong with our media in America?
Yeah, it's amazing that they're not even spending 1 second covering this. And with the information that's, was disclosed last night by President Trump and all the documentation to support it, everything from China's interference to the hacking and voter information, our data is in foreign hands, millions of us. I mean, that's just shocking. And then you have over 250,000 illegal aliens registered to vote. And it's probably way more than that because all the blue states won't give their information to the federal government. So we're probably over 500,000 illegal aliens registered to vote in this country. That's just outrageous. And the fraud and everything that's going on.
I would suggest the number is millions because only a handful of states actually allowed their voter rolls to be evaluated. You've got almost 300,000 non-citizens registered to vote. So I would suggest the number is probably millions if you got down to it. What can be done here? Why would the FBI back off? Why would the Department of Justice not pursue a case when they said in the documents that are available online right now, they believed crimes had been committed? Of course, crimes have been committed. If you're taking gift cards or cash or whatever it is to go out and get a certain number of applications signed, whether it's a real signature or your own, you get paid by how many applications you get turned in. Doesn't matter if they're real or not. Why would the FBI not go through that with a fine-tooth comb?
Well, it's obvious the Biden administration called him off. I mean, there's no other explanation for it. And it's ridiculous that that's the case. And I'm glad to see that now, according to the president last night, there are going to be criminal investigations and potential prosecutions. These people should be prosecuted. You know, Steve, people forget here in Michigan, you know, that all you hear is all the cases that were filed in 2020 regarding election fraud and illegal activities, they all lost. Well, that's not true. We filed a case in Detroit in 2020 and we won. The local judge there ruled that there was that we were entitled to a recount. The only difference was it didn't have to be done by the local county clerk. It should have been done by the Secretary of State. And of course, we had a Democrat Secretary of State in Michigan who refused. But we actually won our case in Wayne County. So, you know, there's so much misinformation out there. But what was revealed last night, honestly, it is shocking. The data breaches, your information, my information, everybody's information out there is in China or who knows where. It's just outrageous.
Yeah. He also explained that Venezuela figured out how to game the machines, not for an American election, but for a Maduro election. The same machines we use here.
Right.
They figured out how to game those machines without detection. I mean, how can we allow this to continue, David? I mean, this is a violation of the law. It's a violation of the trust of this country. Last word to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I think President Trump ended with the Save America Act. We do have to pass that. And I think everybody out there needs to be calling their senators, their representatives today to let them know we want this act passed. If you got to show a voter ID to buy a 6-pack of beer, you know what? You can show a voter ID or a photo ID to vote. That's just ridiculous.
That's right.
The Save America Act needs to be passed and it needs to be done now.
David Kallman, always good to talk to you, my friend. I appreciate you stepping in so early. Put the mask back on. You know, it's smoky in Michigan. I appreciate it. Come on, follow the rules, David.
That's me, Steve. You know, I'm a rule follower, you know.
Yeah. Get in line. We'll be right back. All right, let's just jump right back into it. Troy is in New Mexico on this Free Speech Free for All Friday. Troy, good morning. Tony, excuse me. Tony, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I am mostly concerned with. I mean, everybody already knew that China was going to try and fraudulate that election, but I'm very interested in knowing what we're doing domestically. We saw so much video evidence of the stealing of that election. We saw women running the same stacks of duplicate, ballots through the machine several times. We saw suitcases being brought out from under tables of ballots.
And it's a good point you make. We saw videos of people dumping ballots into drop-off boxes. We saw in Michigan, where I live, they covered paper over the windows so nobody could see what was going on, because that's on the up and up, right? You're exactly right, Tony.
Exactly. And even Dinesh D'Souza made a whole movie about this. They tracked their cell phones. They did all that. I mean, I want to know if the FBI is going to go question those folks. And
well, I
would also like them to reopen the Arizona.
I'll leave it there.
The Arizona.
We want Arizona, Georgia, Pennsylvania. Tony, thank you for the call. Greatly appreciate it. I want to get one more voice in here. Dawn from Virginia. Dawn, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, and I'm so thankful for Rav. This morning, listening early, Laura Logan hit the ball out of the park for truth. And what you've been talking about all morning is just so invaluable, is that we the people need to know the truth. We need to know the truth. Families have been divided. People are not even talking to each other anymore because of the lies propagated. We've got to make lying on the airwaves illegal.
That gets difficult, truth. Dawn. I got to leave it there. We do want truth. There's no question about that. Lying on the airwaves, not illegal, unfortunately, because you still have the First Amendment. Deliberately manipulating. I mean, there's some finer points. Coming up at the top of the next hour, John Solomon will be joining me for about 20 minutes to sort out what he knows, what they've learned, what is still to come. It's all coming up on Daybreak.
America's awake, and we're just getting started. The headlines that matter, the stories they won't tell you, and the voices fighting to be heard. This is your country, your morning, your daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. A new hour starts right now on Real America's Voice.
Let's dive right in. A big speech last night from the president, although ABC, NBC, CNN, and others refused to cover it. But what we learned, I think, is pretty shocking. The People's Republic of China compromised 220 million voter rolls, your data, my data, everybody's data, name, address, voting affiliation, how you might vote, information that can be used to manipulate elections. And then the intelligence community actively suppressed that. Documents from the FBI, the CIA, all available now at whitehouse.gov, whitehouse.gov. One of the people behind the declassifications of these documents, with more to come, John Solomon, my colleague on this network, who is also on a temporary appointment to the White House. John, good morning.
Good morning, Steve. Good to be with you.
One of the things I find shocking this morning, one of my first guests here said that he had watched Fox News this morning. Not a single mention. We know that ABC and NBC and CNN are actively trying to discredit all of this information. But this is backed up by documents in Urban CV report. I watched your conversation with Tony DeCouple of CBS last night, and you pointed out to him, you haven't reported on this because you haven't seen this before. This is all new information, isn't it?
It is for the news media, for the American public, I think for most lawmakers that I talked to and I briefed last night, and certainly to President Trump, who only learned about this in the last few days. And the intel chiefs told me they did not know the extent of China's action against American voters until we requested the documents at the task force. What's so remarkable, and I don't mean to pick on Fox, but I will just for the fun of it. The same parent company that owns Fox News owns the Wall Street Journal. I want everyone to go check it out. I'll go check out my social media in a couple seconds. There is a story in the Wall Street Journal that's also owned by Rupert Murdoch's company in 2024. The Wall Street Journal was alarmed when Joe Biden revealed that Great Britain had its voter files hacked by China in 2024. Now, I just want to point out how much the circumstances are the same. Great Britain voter files are public. You can get basic public information on voters. American public voter files are mostly public, not in all states, but in some states. So they're very similar that way. China, in fact, I believe it's probably the same unit from what I can tell, hacked both. They got into both. They acquired both. Great Britain was 40 million. America was 220 million. The Wall Street Journal, NPR, CNN, all the major news organizations were alarmed when Joe Biden said it happened on a smaller degree to Great Britain. But when Donald Trump says it happened in a larger, much larger way to America, each and every one of them are out there minimizing, undercutting, pretending it's not a big deal. They can't even keep their story straight. If it was bad for Great Britain under identical circumstances when Joe Biden was president, it should be bad for America that it happened to us. The hypocrisy on these networks smacks of something that looks like Providence. Before CBS went live on its coverage last night, which is one of the few networks that had the courage to cover it, they did a disclaimer. They basically poisoned all of the American people's minds before Donald Trump uttered a word. Now, they did that after CBS got a pre-briefing from me. I showed them the documents at the White House. They had the benefit of hours to look at this and see if what Donald Trump was going to say was based on the actual documents. I told them they could call the intel chiefs and see if the intel chiefs felt comfortable with the words in the president's speech. They did it. They did a disclaimer to try to scare off the American public and then pretend they were going to carry it anyways. They biased and poisoned the minds of people before they let an American president speak to the country. Now, they're a little better than the rest of them who pretended that such a thing didn't occur. They just simply ignored the speech last night. We live in an era now where our public airwaves are used by news organizations. Our cable lines underneath the ground in our public domain are carrying networks that try to deliberately misinform the American public, to deliberately treat Joe Biden's revelation about China hacking of Great Britain files differently than Donald Trump's revelation of American voter files being hacked and stolen and illegally or illicitly bought in America. It is time for the American people to make a decision. Do we want to have these same networks? And I'm speaking simply as a person, not me as a White House official, not me as the just a news anchor, but me as a person. It is time, I think, for the American public to decide whether we want to keep letting these propaganda organizations have the benefit of public airwaves. They are not serving the public when they do this. They have put their finger, foot, and derrieres on the scale to try to tip it in one direction. And that is not what our public airways were designed to do 50 years ago when journalists at least gave an effort to be neutral. Today, they're not neutral. They are literally a propaganda organization against anyone who doesn't ascribe to their narrative.
I would have to say follow the money, John, because with China infiltrating 220 American voter files, you have to wonder where the money flows to these networks. But something else I find highly disturbing.
Well, let me point out something, Steve. There's a wonderful document that people should go look at that we released last night. It's intelligence intercepting a plan from China that China wanted to pay money to U.S. journalists who were critical to Trump so they would write more critical stories. We ought to know.
And did they?
We don't know. In the documents we have thus far, we only know that they were intercepted talking about doing it. But I think if you're an intelligence agency or the FBI, you might want to see if any journalists have taken money from China directly or through cutouts. I think that's a meaningful exploration. It's one of the leads we get from these documents.
And if you did take money as a journalist or anybody else from a foreign government above a certain amount, you have to report that. Otherwise, you're committing a crime, correct?
That's right. Yeah, it'd be foreign. Now, journalists have some exemption, but recently, under Joe Biden, organizations that were being funded by foreign governments had to suddenly start filing as FARA representatives. In the past, media was generally exempt from that, but that changed in a couple of years ago. I think it was under Joe Biden, if I remember correctly. But whatever the case is, you should disclose it as a news organization. If you're going to cover China and you're taking money from China, you should disclose where your money comes from. I think at the end of the day, the media landscape that we are in had perhaps its most embarrassing night I can ever remember as a journalist. And boy, that's saying something, because for 3 years they told us that Donald Trump was a Russian stooge. Then John Durham, under Joe Biden, the special prosecutor, said there wasn't an iota of evidence to base any of those reports on. Then they told us Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation when the FBI had it in its position. But last night, they tried to tell you that what Donald Trump said, which, by the way, is backed by documents that the intelligence community says are real and authentic and represent the honest concerns of the intelligence community. They tried to tell you, don't believe your eyes, your ears, don't listen to this man. I don't think that that is a good use of the public airways.
I think most people would agree. John Solomon is going to hold through the break with us. We got a couple more questions for John. Very busy today. Telling you the truth. While the other networks turn a blind eye and a deaf ear, we're going to put it all out there for you. Again, you can find out for yourself at whitehouse.gov. That's whitehouse.gov. You can evaluate the documents for yourself. That's why they're doing it. And more documents to be released in the days and weeks to come. I'll be right back with John Solomon here on Daybreak. Let's jump right back in with John Solomon. He is on temporary assignment to the White House, also one of my colleagues here on this network who has been declassifying and working to declassify, working with the current intelligence chiefs about all this information about China collecting the information on 220 million Americans, probably more by now. John, thank you for staying with us. At this point, China can build a digital dossier on you or me or anybody else in the United States. I mean, they know who I am, where I live, how I vote. They probably know what I buy at the grocery store. That's pretty frightening stuff.
It is. But more frightening is what the Homeland Security Department and the CIA concluded that China could do once it had gotten access to our voter registration files. They could register in our name and vote. You would show up at the polls and they'd tell you, you can't vote, sir, you've already voted. They could make a change to your registration without your knowledge because they had all the key information to do so. You'd show up at the polls and say, your ID doesn't match your current registration, so you have to file a provisional vote. They could register you in another county or another state without your knowledge and vote on your behalf, and you might not ever know.
And we heard those stories. We've heard stories of people showing up at the precinct to vote. Sorry, Mrs. Smith, you've already voted, but you can fill out a provisional ballot. But at that point, the ballot has already gone through, the illegal ballot, if you will, has already gone through and has been counted. There's no way to go back and retrieve that. So if Mrs. Smith puts in her provisional ballot, all it does is offset what's already been done illegally, right?
Yeah, that's exactly the concern. Now, I don't know whether China was behind those examples and anecdotes that we got in 2020, but the fact that they could be, the fact that they might be in the future is a clear and present threat to our election integrity. And that's what the president was trying to make clear last night. But the truth of the matter is the legacy media doesn't want this story to be true. They have decided that the Democrats are the only people they want to treat credibly and that Donald Trump's not going to be treated credibly. It wouldn't matter if he caught the Chinese with video footage stuffing the ballot box. They say it wouldn't be true.
Right.
It is.
My concern, if I want to go to this, because the other real problem is this: the intelligence community actively working to, quote, massage the presidential daily briefing to keep information about China and their intervention into our voter rolls seeking from the president. So names like Comer, Brennan, Clapper, and one name that was mentioned just one time by the president last night. And I'd like to know your thoughts on the role of Barack Obama in all of this.
Yeah, well, we don't know from the China intelligence standpoint. This intelligence is developed way after President Obama is long gone. But we do know what President Obama did do in the Oval Office in 2017, just before Donald Trump was about to take over. He conspired with the FBI and DOJ officials to try to find a way to keep investigating or lure an innocent man named Mike Flynn into a lie so that he could be prosecuted. He tried to make sure that Mike Flynn, the incoming national security advisor from Donald Trump, would be hampered. The FBI had just cleared Mike Flynn of the Russia collusion investigations. On January 4th, they were closing the case. Then the FBI got a call from the White House. And the next day, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and all of their henchmen in the FBI and DOJ, and maybe the henchwomen too, they showed up and schemed about how they could lure Mike Flynn into a potential lie and then prosecute him. One of the senior FBI executives at that meeting wrote in his notes, what was our goal today? To get the truth or to take an innocent man and try to lure him into an indictment? That is what Barack Obama did. Barack Obama also changed the December 2016 Intelligence Committee's career assessment that Russia didn't interfere in the election. He had it changed by John Brennan to say something that the career people didn't agree. Barack Obama also knew and allowed the FBI to start investigating Donald Trump as a Russian spy when he was told in July of 2016 that this was a fake operation by Hillary Clinton. She was going to hang a fake Russian shingle on Donald Trump's campaign house. He sat there and did not stop his administration. He has that culpability for sure.
Yeah, a lot of conversation about the SAVE Act. That's how the president closed his speech last night, urging people to call their members of Congress and senators to say we need the Save America Act. But with only about 100 days between now and the midterm election, seems a little bit late to me. But Jay Johnson, the former secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, declared elections to be critical infrastructure. What levers does the president have to secure the midterms and the elections of 2028 and beyond?
Well, he has an executive order that's being fought through the courts right now about whether he can impose voter ID. The new evidence that was put out there yesterday would seem to suggest that voter ID could combat things like China trying to fake register you, or the other thing we revealed last night, or the president revealed last night, that in Michigan they found a fake voter registration operation where the workers for a Democratic paid firm admitted they were making up ballot registration requests. They admitted it. So if you can read the FBI interview reports, that voter ID, that citizenship check, would protect against that sort of a fraud scheme. And third, last night the president revealed that the Homeland Security Department's identified 278,000 non-citizens on the voter rolls. A citizenship check would have gotten them off before they ever registered.
All right, we got about a minute left here, John. Before I let you go, this is the beginning. This is the kickoff. Yeah. A lot more documents to come over the next weeks and days. How much more is coming out? How much more work is there to be done?
We have collected millions upon millions of documents at the White House Government Transparency Task Force. We're going through them, exploiting them. They cover topics as wide as civil liberties violations, to new weaponization allegations, to foreign policy failures, to election security. We chose this election security solely because the machine vulnerabilities identified in the documents could be fixed before election day. So we thought if we got that out there, the Homeland Security Department, the states could start working on that. We could have a more secure and more confident election in the fall. So that's why we started with this, just because we learned of something that we thought would impact the security of the 26th election. But we have lots more revelations to come. We have to get the information declassified first.
John Solomon, appreciate you getting up early. It's been a short night. It'll be another long day for you, sir. Thank you, as always.
Steve, good to see you.
Good to see you, my friend. You can believe what's in the documents written by the FBI, the CIA, the DNI, and others, or you can listen to the news media that tells you nothing about any of it. That's why we're here, to tell you the truth. It is the relentless pursuit of truth here on Daybreak. All right, what do you think of all of the information you're getting so far today? Because you're getting it here and nowhere else, just about. Why? Because we tell you the truth. And if you want to find out for yourself, again, whitehouse.gov. Let's go to Patrick in Texas. Patrick, good morning.
Good morning from the great southern state of Texas. Hey, I got a couple points. Let's treat news outlets as a business. When they lie to deceive the public sues them, right? And they lie a lot. Another thing is, they are a criminal organization. Treat them with the RICO Act. Go after them like they went after the mafia. Go after the 5 families and throw them all in prison. And another thing is, Cash is boring me to death with all this talk. I don't see no politicians, nobody getting arrested, because they're all corrupt, except for a few good ones. So
you got
I just
that
want to
right.
hear what
Great
you got
call.
to say.
Great call. You know, the RICO Act is an interesting way to go, and one that I applaud the pursuit of. We'll see if that plays out. And you're right. These politicians are enriching themselves at your expense and mine. Let's get to David in Michigan. David, good morning.
Steve, thanks for taking my call. I watch you all the time. I'm going to keep it straight to the point. Go back and look up the tapes on Nancy Pelosi. before Biden was elected, she said, I have a funny feeling Joe Biden's going to win the next election. She knew that he was going to win. She's part of the deep state. Number two, she said, I admit I take responsibility for not having the troops come in during the January 6th thing. She was part of
in the days and weeks ahead. I'll take a break. Thank you for being here on Daybreak. All right, back to it here on a busy Friday, coming to you live from Washington, D.C. today, where the president delivered that speech last night and put up on the White House website documents for you to review. One of those sections focuses specifically on Michigan and people collecting signatures to create applications for ballots that were bogus. It was a manufacturing operation where they were paid with gift cards and cash because they had to meet a quota every day. That's what the FBI said when they said they believe crimes have been committed, but then it was slow walked by the Department of Justice under Joe Biden. The Michigan State Police did not pursue it either. I don't know why that is, but maybe my next guest has an opinion. Congressman Tim Walberg represents Michigan 5. He serves on the House Energy and Commerce Committee. Congressman, good morning.
Good morning. Good to be with you, and it's good to feel a bit vindicated for the continued stand I took that Michigan, in those more than just that election, but other elections, under this Secretary of State, Governor, and Attorney General hid some of the things that we said were going on and heard from clerks across our district about what Jocelyn Benson was encouraging clerks to do, let alone stuffing up ballot boxes that we heard all sorts of credible reports on, and sadly our political Supreme Court wouldn't take up. So it's good to hear that we have facts, but will people call for looking at these files as much as they continue to waste their time calling for more look at Epstein files?
Well, it's interesting that John Solomon just noted here moments ago before you came on, sir, that in 2024, when the UK was compromised by China and 40 million voter files were compromised by the People's Republic of China, Joe Biden thought that was big news and important. But when it happens here in the United States and Donald Trump talks about the 220 million voter files have been compromised, yours, mine, meaning they have information on where I live, how old I am, where I work, and possibly how I vote, that the major news networks, including NBC, ABC, and CNN, wouldn't even carry the speech. What's going on?
Wouldn't carry the speech, and then reading the reports of various news organizations this morning, only Fox is talking about it. Wall Street Journal, I think, mentioned a small snippet of it. But other than that, no, it is a clear hoax that is attempted to be carried out and continued by the news media that were part and parcel of all that Joe Biden, Hillary Clinton, and others were able to do. It's frustrating. That's why the people need to be aware more and more of the Chinese influence out there using our own media against us. And it's time to wake up and get down the business of returning control of this country to people who believe in this country, its foundational principles. And now we have perfect example, Democrat Party being controlled by communists from Mondami on down, and next year we will have probably 12 at least out-and-out communists in Congress. This is time to wake up, people. This is a time to wake up and not to lose this country.
And in fairness, Fox News didn't cover one sentence of this speech between 4 a.m. and 6:30 a.m. According to one of my previous guests, he was up watching the early editions of Fox. Not one mention of this speech, because they're focused on Iran. They want the continual war, but they do not want to talk about voter fraud in America. None of them do. And the problem is that when millions of Americans don't get the information or are led to believe that the information is somehow unsubstantiated, when you've got documents from the CIA, the FBI, the Department of Justice, the DNI, what has been put out is a remarkable collection of facts that China has infiltrated 220 million voter roll databases for us, for each of you and I. That means they can build a digital dossier on you and I. It also means potentially, and you heard these stories, Congressman, of people going to the voting booth and being told, sorry, you've already cast a ballot. And they look, I haven't voted yet this year. Well, we've got a vote in for you. You can fill out a provisional ballot. By that time, the damage is done because that vote, wherever it came from, has already gone into the system. And that provisional ballot would be nothing more than an offset to a vote that has already been put into the system in some fraudulent way. I don't think the SAVE Act is enough. I don't. And Jay Johnson, the former Secretary of Homeland Security, called elections critical infrastructure. He laid the groundwork, thankfully. A Democrat laid the groundwork for Donald Trump to take real action here, I believe. Your thoughts?
Well, I agree. I agree. And having voted to pass in the House the SAVE Act 4 times now, I certainly concur that it is the first step. But we have problems. And when you see the type of indoctrination and espionage that's going on, whether it be with the ballot box, whether it be with AI, whether it be with data centers, incredibly wrong positions being taken by constituents fostered by Chinese influence, all with an intent to break our country down at every level, including leadership in the technological and communications data area. We have a challenge. We have a challenge, and we need to move forward, always moving forward. And I say that because we have some people that want 100% or nothing. We're not going to get that. But we need to move forward and win those 60, 70% procedures and keep ourselves moving back from the onslaught of communists now who are not hiding who they are.
I agree. You look back to the intelligence community, Brennan, Comer, Clapper, but then appointees from this president, Chad Wolf, Christopher Wray, Bill Barr. I believe the evidence shows all of these people are complicit to one extent or another. Will we be holding people accountable? That's the real question.
Yeah, complicit or willfully ignorant of what was going on and living in a world of the past.
Yeah.
I think that there is no excuse for people being willfully ignorant about at least going to the White House website and reading those documents yourself. You have that opportunity. You don't have to accept what Fox News or CNN won't say anything. But you don't have to accept just taking the word of the president even. You can go to those documents, you can read them, you can ask questions, you can debate it like they used to do in the founding days of our country, in the taverns and in the marketplaces, and discuss. And ultimately, I think that has a chance for common sense to wake us up and realize where we're at.
Well, I certainly hope you're right, Congressman. I appreciate you being here again. Always a good conversation, and I hope that John Thune is up for the job, but I remain rather unconvinced this hour. Congressman Tim Walberg, have a great weekend.
You as well.
Greatly appreciated. Yeah, I don't think John Thune is up for the job because the job takes spine and, frankly, it takes balls to get done what has to be done now. The evidence is being laid out. The documents are revealed. The CIA, the DNI, the FBI, the Secretary of Homeland Security, and so much more. He'll be holding a presser today at 11. We'll see what the next steps are. I'll be back with more of your phone calls on Daybreak. 220 million voter files, your files, my file. And China can identify who you are, where you live, how you vote, and they can expose vulnerabilities to target American citizens to become part and parcel to their efforts to undermine this country. That's one of the things you need to understand. China is one of the, if not the largest, collector of data on the planet, on every person in every country if possible, but most importantly to them, the United States of America. Let's go back to the phone lines. Ken is in Nashville. Ken, good morning.
Hey, morning, Steve. You there?
Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm the one with the studio in Nashville, the kit you like. Yeah, you can come by, take my number. You can come by and play it anytime you want. But this is beyond the SOS Act. I'm ex-military. I did 5 lines of defense for NATO before I left Germany in the 70s around the town of Hof. And no, this is beyond the SAVE Act. I think the president has a duty because of COVID and the Nuremberg protocols being violated, and the enemies are in the gate, the barbarians are in the gate. We've got compromised politicians paid by China. We have compromised news media paid by China. This is an act of war. I think the president should declare martial law, set up the military tribunals, arrest everybody, deport everybody immediately, and problem solved. We can have our republic back.
Can you imagine the outcry from the news media, from the compromised politicians? And you forgot one other category. The compromised business leaders can, because they're making money off the deal. So they turn a blind eye as well. That's why Fox News is not covering this story this morning. There's your problem, Ken. Thank you for the phone call. Let's go to John in St. Louis. John, welcome to the program.
Yeah, Steve, thanks for taking my phone call this morning. But, after the president's speech last night, every single American should be upset. We the people need to laser focus on this because we've got to get this fixed. It has to be fixed. Otherwise, it's nothing more than taxation without representation.
Unless your representation is in Beijing. It's a fair point you make, John, and I appreciate it. Every American should be outraged, not upset, outraged, that the intelligence community kept this information from the President of the United States, kept it out of the presidential daily briefing, massaged it, as it says in the notes, ran a shadow government. As one FBI agent notes, that is what she was doing, was running a shadow government to keep the president in the dark, the commander-in-chief, and helping China to undermine that president as well. Terry is in Colorado. Terry, welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning, Steve. Thank you so much for everything you do. I wanted to point out that about, I guess, 6-7 years ago, Mike Lindell, who has been horribly treated, put out a documentary called Absolute Proof. He pointed these things out 6-7 years ago and could identify the IP addresses down to a square meter, and they were all over the world. They were already they've been in here for probably decades. And the second thing, he employed Jovan Hutton Pulitzer, and he was involved with the Treasury in designing some of our currency. He can tell you where paper came from anywhere in the world. He was pointing out all the ballots that were on paper that was not endorsed by the government.
And, not American paper is your point. The source product came from elsewhere. That's a fascinating point.
Exactly. And the third point is type in voter fraud into the internet, and 95% of what you'll see is that it's been debunked. It's not true. It's BS. And we are just being, we better get it together, guys.
Terry, thank you for the call. Let's go to Delana in Tennessee. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Steve. I have a question, and really I want your opinion. Why is the FCC not holding mainstream media accountable for their lies and spreading propaganda. That's a large part of our problem.
I don't disagree with you, especially, because lies by omission are still lies. And when NBC, ABC, CNN, the New York Times, and others just omit the facts or don't read the documents now available at whitehouse.gov, that's lying by omission. I wouldn't let my child do it. I wouldn't let these big corporations do it. And that's what John Solomon said. Do they deserve the public airwaves? Do they deserve to use the cables, billions of dollars worth of cables that run under the ground in this country so we can communicate? Should those platforms be allowed to continue on your dime? It's a great question, Delana. Appreciate your call. Crystal in Pennsylvania, how are you? Welcome to the program.
Hi, Steve. I just want, I'm listening to you, and I want to encourage everybody. I have been praying since November of 2020 that God would reveal the deceit and not just the stuff on the surface, but get down into the fine roots. I never thought it would take 6 years to accomplish, but here we are. We're at least learning and we're seeing, and I'm going to keep praying because our nation needs to be able to come back from this. And I thank you.
It's the Red Green
for your
Alliance.
time.
I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Crystal. Appreciate the phone call. The Patriot Mobile Common Sense hotline, 877-310-9966. 877-310-9966. I'll take a break and be back with more of your phone calls, but I encourage you to read the documents, to help others to read the documents, those that refuse to look at the truth because they don't want to know. That's the way the mainstream media is treating it. They don't want to know because if they told the truth now, it would reveal how many lies have been told leading up to this moment. It would reveal how many lies have been told by the media to you to convince you of something that isn't true, and then to deny something that is. More calls after this. All right. If you want to continue to hear honest broadcasting, if you want to continue to hear people tell the truth, like me, to the best of my ability, you need to support the people that make it possible. If you're tired of thin, lifeless hair, if you cringe every time you see another clump in the shower drain, then your hair probably needs more protein. Just like our muscles lose protein as we age and atrophy, our hair loses protein too, leading to thin, dry, and brittle strands. That's where Hydrolift Volumizing Shampoo from Purance comes in. Hydrolift contains wheat protein that strengthens your hair follicles from deep within. This transforms thin and lifeless hair into fuller, more resilient locks. It also contains betaine from sugar beets, which draws water into your strands, making your hair feel silky soft. And right now, you can try Hydrolift Volumizing Shampoo risk-free and save 35% with the discount code DAYBREAK. Head over to Purance.com to shop and save. And by the way, Purance has many other fantastic products, too, for skin, hair, nails. All USDA certified organic, so they're great for your body and the environment. Again, you can save 35% on your entire order with the discount code DAYBREAK. Go to Purance.com to shop and save right now. Let me get to Brenda in Washington State. Brenda, welcome to the program.
Hi, can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Well, there's a few things I have to say. First and foremost, President Trump is way too nice. Second thing, these people that didn't air him on the program for his speech, they should not be allowed in the briefing in the White House, period, the end. And these people, these Democrats and Republicans, unbelievable. You know, this isn't a fight between them. This is a fight for our country. And when they don't get that, they're not going to have a country, and they're not going to have a job, and they're going to have nothing. That's the deal.
I think you're exactly right. Thanks for the call, Brenda. Greatly appreciate it. They should put me in the front row of the briefing room and take out NBC, ABC, CNN, and these other hacks, because they are hacks. When the evidence is right in front of you and you refuse to acknowledge it or even listen to it, are you a journalist or a hack? Journalism is supposed to be about curiosity, finding the truth. That's what we try to do here every day on Daybreak. You can always email me, stevegruber.com, stevegruber.com. Email me your thoughts because I want to know. I'll be back in a moment.
Be right back.
America's awake, and we're just getting started. The headlines that matter, the stories they won't tell you, and the voices fighting to be heard. This is your country, your morning, your daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. A new hour starts right now.
All right, this is a special edition of Daybreak live from Washington, D.C. We have been all week. Obviously, a lot happening here with the president's speech last night that NBC, ABC, and CNN all refused to carry. Can you imagine being in a news organization or calling yourself a news organization and refusing to cover the story that China has hacked into the files of 220 million American voters, you and me included, most likely? Refusing to cover the stories that the intelligence community kept that information from the president, Donald Trump, at the time, and in fact worked in a parallel shadow government, as it was called by one CIA agent in one of the documents that you can go find at whitehouse.gov. Can you imagine being part of a news organization that refuses to cover news or has no curiosity whatsoever because you dislike the president or your agenda is so rigid that the truth about election integrity is not news to you? It is remarkable. Let's go to Mark in Texas on this Free Speech Free for All Friday. Mark, good morning.
Good morning. I texted my brother this morning who doesn't vote anymore. He used to. And I said, don't worry about voting anymore. China will do it for you.
So true. Don't need to cast a ballot. China will vote for you. Isn't that remarkable that these news agencies don't think this is worth covering? Good call, Mark. Let's go to Al in Louisiana. Al, good morning.
Steve, I love your show. I love how knowledgeably prepared you show up and you hold people to account. Look, I want to talk about, kind of add to something a lady earlier called in, I think her name may have been Brenda, talked about denying these so-called news organizations a seat in the White House briefings. I actually think there's a better solution.
All right.
I think you let them come in. Caroline Levitt does her initial statement, and toward the end, maybe at the very end of her statement before taking questions, she explains that any so-called news organization that's represented here today who is not actively carrying newsworthy information that's necessary for the American public to maintain sovereignty and safety is disavowing or basically, completely avoiding their responsibilities. Yep. They will not get questions. They will not get
I think that'd be
questions.
great.
You can sit here, huh?
I think that's the right thing. No question. You can sit and watch. I'll take questions from people that are actually going to cover something. I think you're onto something there, Al. I was in the briefing room yesterday, like I have been many, many times before, and they always go to the front row at some point, right? Caitlin Collins, I'll give her credit. She did ask a reasonable question yesterday, and the question is this: if you have this information, why has nobody been arrested? And Caroline quite aptly pointed out, because it's brand new information. The investigations are really going to hit high speed today at 11 o'clock when Markwayne Mullin, the Secretary of Homeland Security, comes out with his comments. We'll find out a lot more in a little bit. Al, great call. And you're right. Just don't ask them. Just don't call on them to ask questions. Let's go to Dave in Pennsylvania. Dave, welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning, Steve. And again, echo that last speaker that you're a stand-up man. Appreciate you and all that you do. I sort of tail him on this. The legacy networks that made a decision to deny their audience the opportunity to hear their president, Donald J. Trump, speak last night, a form of censorship. And should that be, then they should lose their license, I would think. Your comments?
Well, yes, sir. I had not considered it quite the way you did, Dave. You put it quite aptly. It is censorship. When you deny audiences of ABC, NBC, and CNN the right to hear the president lay out the case and say, look, it's all available at whitehouse.gov. You can go fact check for yourself. Catherine Herridge, by the way, on News Nation, I saw her just before I came on today. And she said she's fact checked it all, and it's all exactly right. She's one of the few people I trust in media today. There's Cheryl Atkinson, Catherine Herridge, and of course, John Solomon. I trust these people because they do their work, and they're not swayed by politics. They're not swayed by agendas. They're swayed by following the facts wherever they lead. That's what we try to do here. We appreciate it. Thank you, Dave. Let's go to Terry in Ohio. Terry, good morning.
Good morning, Steve. Love your show, man. And me and you are both men of integrity. And what I need to say this morning is all the players of the fraud and corruption and cover-ups on that racquetball team should be left to talk about and ask themselves, was it worth it doing what they did to our country?
You know, the names are Brennan, Comer, Clapper, Obama. Those are from previous administrations. But what about Chad Wolf, Christopher Wray, Bill Barr? Were they complicit by looking the other way as well, or not giving the president, the commander-in-chief, the information that he rightly deserved in his presidential daily briefing? These are serious questions that need to be asked. And Terry, you're exactly right. We need to hold these people accountable. And I hope today Markwayne Mullins starts at 11 o'clock this morning here in D.C. by laying out a plan. He's a man of integrity as well. Markwayne Mullins, a hard-nosed individual who I'd want in my foxhole, by the way, just in case of emergency. I think he can defend us. We'll see what he has to say at 11 o'clock today. Looking forward to that. Let's go to Carla in Wisconsin. Carla, welcome to the program.
Right. Thank you so much, Steve. I have two quick ideas. One, I think everybody should call their local TV stations that censored our president last night. I was outraged. I called all the stations I could and asked them why they weren't going to, show our president on national TV, which is really an outrage. Everybody should be outraged. The second thing is, I think you and Ivy should have a primetime show with a band, kind of like, so more people can see how great you are. We need to see you more. We need more of you. We need a primetime show with a band and guests, and people need to see that you are one of the best people out there to bring the news, the reality. Why can't we get you more? I want more of you.
God bless you, Carla. More Gruber all the time. I appreciate you, Carla, very much. Thank you for the call. I truly appreciate that.
They can find
Puts a
more
smile
at the
on my
Forgotten
face.
America podcast.
Well, there you go. See Anthony. He's on Team Gruber. You can find out more at the Forgotten America podcast on YouTube. You can become a subscriber for free, Carla, and you can get Gruber and Ivy, Steve and Ivy all the time. You can binge watch and have some really cool conversations as well. Stories you don't hear anywhere else. No commercials. They run about an hour. Some are a little shorter. Some are a little bit longer. Good stuff right there. The QR code on your screen. The Forgotten America podcast. Anthony never misses a chance to promote the podcast, which I greatly appreciate. Well done, Anthony. Well done. We'll take a break and be back on a Free Speech, Free for All Friday. I will get back to the phone lines on the Patriot Mobile Common Sense hotline, 877-310-9966 in just a moment. But first, a short detour as I bring in the best-looking, most accomplished, most talented attorney in the history of the world, Steve Doolan. Doolan, good morning.
Good morning, Gruber. You know, that last caller was right. We all need more Gruber in our lives.
Yeah, I've been saying it for years. Can't get enough. Yeah, there you go. I loved her. Carla was a charm. I loved her for that. Doolan, I'm gonna say something here that might be surprising to people that watch media in general. I was wrong. I was wrong, Doolan. I was wrong about the Canadian. Yeah, there it is. I was wrong about the Canadian wildfires. Last year, we had all this smoke pouring into Michigan and so forth. Far worse now, I'm told. I have not been home for a week, but I'm told, and I see there's a haze in the nation's capital today. That smoke has creeped into Washington now. And I was wrong because I said a couple of things. First of all, Canada is millions of acres of forested land. And once these fires start, there's no real effective way to put them out, right? And as of last night, there were about 875 wildfires currently burning in Canada. So how do you put them out? You really can't. But here's where I was wrong. I said there's nothing you can do about it, really. But then I did some research and found out they haven't done any forest management. Why? Green New Dealers. You can't touch the forest. You must leave it alone. You must not manage anything. And now you have these massive fires. And in fact, legislation is going to be introduced to sue Canada, I'm told, this day in the United States Senate. Is there anything we can do? Do we have any way to address the smoke stretches from Minnesota to the nation's capital? And it's bad from what I understand. You're there. What do you make of it?
Oh, it's noticeable. Yeah. In fact, you know, we've got these air cleaner boxes that are running now in the rooms here, and the windows are all sealed shut. And I took the kids to see a movie last night, and the 7-year-old is running around holding his nose, you know, unprompted, just because there's a persistent odor. So it is noticeable. And my friends up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan are reporting that they're wiping ash off their cars. They're posting pictures online of a thin layer of ash just falling out of the sky, basically. So it's very significant. As far as what can be done, you know, I understand that there are forest management techniques and principles that can be applied, and, you know, things like building roads in advance as fire breaks, and so that firefighting equipment can get into the deep areas of the forest.
Well, that is one of the problems. I mean, if you look at a map of Canada, I mean, it's scarred up by literally hundreds of thousands of lakes, rivers, and swamps, muskeg, which is like spongy stuff to walk across. It's not like you can move firefighting equipment in. But forest management seems to be a big issue, or failure to manage a forest a big issue. I mean, how do you voice a complaint? What can you really say to Canada? Hey, you owe us $10 billion because you did this terrible thing. I mean, what can you really do?
Well, yeah, in terms of a legal action between countries, those drag on for years. They often go nowhere after many, many years. So I guess it's worth a shot. It might make people feel better. It might result in some kind of change. I think the real value would probably be political in Canada, assuming that would help sway either public opinion or the actual actions of the politicians. So it beats doing nothing, I suppose. But, you know, this is at the same time that Marco Rubio is making announcements about turning inward and not focusing on the international courts. He was talking about the International Criminal Court just a couple of days ago, but there's this sort of use of international courts by bad actors. You know, in this case, it looks like the case might have some merit because you've got a country that's willfully ignoring what should be considered standard practices, I suppose, modern techniques for minimizing harm. But, you know, as you pointed out, you've got the greenies who are going to argue that the management itself is the harm. And there are folks who take
That's
that
exactly
position.
it. That's what they argue. At this point, with 875 wildfires burning, there aren't enough airplanes on the planet. There are not enough helicopters on the planet to fight fires of that size, of that magnitude. But it's the second year in a row we've gone through this. Anyhow, let me ask you one last thing. We got about 2 minutes left. What about the president's speech? What about voter fraud? What about China having files now on 220 million Americans, yourself included, Doolin? What about it?
Well, the only defense that I've heard from the other side since the speech is that, well, a lot of this information is publicly available. And maybe this information shouldn't be publicly available. Maybe our information shouldn't be bought and sold to the highest bidder. That might be part of sort of tightening things up here because, truthfully, even if China didn't actively interfere directly in the election itself, the propaganda campaigns that can be targeted and built based on that information are very, very real. There's the dead internet theory that that actually something like half or more of everything on the internet is just bots interacting with bots at this point. It's not even humans creating
not
the
people.
content. Right.
And the other thing they can do, though, with those databases, they can identify vulnerable people, people that have money or gambling problems or something to make them active participants in all of it. Doolin, always a good conversation, the best looking, most well-educated, most talented lawyer in the history of lawyers. That's him. That's why he's here every Friday, everybody. Look right there. It's Doolin.
You're making me blush.
Right there. Right there's Doolin. All right. I'll be right back after this. Doolin, God bless you. We'll be back with Daybreak and your calls.
Confessions of
As you look at the problems inside the Beltway here in Washington, D.C., where I have been all week, the problem is not just that China has accessed 220 million voter files, yours and mine included. It's that the people that are supposed to work for us have also done things they should not do. Jack Smith got the emails of 44 members of Congress, Republicans and Democrats. But when he testified in front of Congress, he said he never did that. But again, the facts have come out. The documents are there. What was Jack Smith doing? Why were they reading the text messages of members of Congress? Members of Congress, United States senators, who knows who else? And if they can get read and hacked, do you think you're safe? I wouldn't think so. At least one Democrat, surprisingly, Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut, says the colleagues have every right to be troubled by what we have learned about Jack Smith and his investigation. I think we need to have more facts, look into it. Republicans are rightly concerned about the possible breach of norms and improper access to email. So said Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut. So Maybe there's a glimmer of hope. Maybe. As we continue to celebrate this glorious 250th year of America, Patriots Relief has a perfect CBD healing solution for you. Summer fun means getting out, being active after the grueling sedentary winter. And with our country's big celebration continuing, we need to make sure our bodies are prepared. Patriots Relief CBD can assist in alleviating aches and pains so you can enjoy your favorite summer activities, hiking, biking, doing whatever, running down the beach, whatever it might be. Give Tim and his family a call at 877-230-1776 or visit patriotsrelief.com and use the promo code Gruber. You'll save 40% right now and get free shipping. Just go to patriotsrelief.com or call 877-230-1776. Sleep, anxiety, aches and pains. Patriots Relief can help you with those things. patriotsrelief.com again, or call 877-230-1776. 40% off and free shipping. You can't beat that with a stick. I'll be right back. The truck. Well, the Socialist Traveling Roadshow is making a stop in Lansing, Michigan this weekend. Let's see. Bernie Sanders will be there. AOC will be there. And their favorite choice to be the next senator from Michigan, Abdul El-Sayed, who thinks we should have, well, pretty much free everything. Because everything's free, right? It just grows on trees, apparently. Anyhow, they're going to be at the Convention Center in Lansing. I believe that's Sunday at 11 a.m. I don't know if they'll let me in or not. Maybe if I'm real nice. Tim Golding is the Americans for Prosperity Michigan State Director. He's aware of that event, and I want to talk to him about the politics of 2026. Tim, good morning.
Hi, how you doing, Mike? Or Steve, it's good to see you. Yeah, it's funny that they're coming to champion him. And did you see his quote the other day, Steve, that he said he's okay with capitalism. He likes capitalism, but he wants it to be regulated.
Yeah, which is socialism, which is communism.
It's socialism, exactly.
Right, exactly.
And he wants Medicaid. He wants Medicaid for all, but his wife's medical practice apparently doesn't take any forms of insurance. So I don't know how that's gonna work with Medicaid for all.
Cash payer. That's a cash payer. Yeah, he wants cradle to grave health care. I have a friend who was just hospitalized in Canada. Said he saw 9 doctors, 3 of whom didn't speak English. He said the person directing his health care, he was actually mauled by a bear. We'll have him on the show here soon. The person running his health care under socialized medicine in Canada was an 18-year-old high school senior because she understood the language and kept correcting the doctors that were doing things wrong. This is what we want, Tim?
Absolutely not. And we talk to people all across the state, all across the country, and in Michigan here, being close to Canada, there are people that come across the border all the time. My wife's a nurse at a local hospital, and she sees those patients because they can't get the care that they need in Canada. One of the people that works for our organization, who's been here quite a long time, had a bad shoulder injury, and it took forever to see a doctor. So he came to America, got his shoulder repaired. I forget what surgery he had, and subsequently moved to Iowa because of it. Their whole family moved to Michigan, and that was a large part of it because of the socialized medicine healthcare debacle that is Canada and other countries that implement those type of policies.
Right. So I have a question. I saw this story recently about India fraudulently creating 100,000 college degrees so that people from India could get onto the H-1B visa program to come over here as doctors, nurses like your wife. Now, your wife went through real training. It concerns me when 3 of the doctors in Canada didn't speak English, and you have to wonder, is their training up to snuff with American standards? And I'm going to guess on too many occasions it's not. That's concerning to me.
Yeah, it should be concerning. And certainly there are many, many good physicians and surgeons that come over from foreign countries to practice medicine here in Michigan and across the country. But they definitely need to pass the muster, as it were, and have their medical skills be up to what American specs are, so to speak. But right. That's one thing we do need. We do need some licensing reciprocity across the country. We need to be able to allow some foreign doctors in. We need more surgeons. We need more medical practitioners in this country. But they definitely have to be vetted and be able to, number one, speak the language and talk to their patients, but then also provide the care that American families deserve.
Yeah, we cannot have people driving 18-wheelers that can't speak English, and we can't have surgeons that don't speak English either. They have to be qualified. I think we agree on that across the board. Let's go back to the race for governor, the race for that Senate seat that's going to be vacated. These are critical elections. Look, Michigan is falling behind every day, 44th in education. Ohio's booming, Indiana's booming, Michigan is not. And it's because of policy changes and differences between those states. We're just not doing it right, are we, Tim?
No, we're not. And again, you look at all those states that are succeeding right now, they all have conservative leadership. They all have accepted and adopted that the government doesn't need to have more rules and regulations in their government. The more power needs to be given back to the citizens. And this is a very critical time in our state. That the governor's race is huge. We need a conservative policy champion to come to Michigan, to Lansing, to reduce the size and scope of government and give Michigan families more freedoms and opportunities. And the Senate race with Mike Rogers, who our sister organization, I'm a senior advisor for, Americans for Prosperity Action, endorsed. He is the conservative person we need to go to Washington. We haven't had a conservative senator since like 92 or 3 when Spencer Abraham won. And we are headed in the wrong direction with the leadership that has been here now. And it's going to be a tight race. We got to get people out to vote for Mike. The candidates that are running on the Democratic side are both progressives, socialists that want a bigger government, cradle to grave, like you mentioned earlier. This is a pivotal time for our state because every metric that you check against other states, we are headed in the wrong direction, from education to business to outbound moves, all of that. We're in the wrong path, and we need to correct and course correct that in November. Actually, we're having a door canvassing day where folks can come meet and talk with Mike for about 45 minutes tomorrow morning up in Macomb. It's going to start at 10 o'clock in the morning, and then we're going to go out and canvass some doors. And you can actually go out with Mike and myself and some others and talk to people at their doorstep. So if you want to come to that, it's 10 o'clock tomorrow, and the address is 20375 Hall Road. That's our office up in Macomb. Love to have you there. You could ask Mike questions, talk to him. He's always a great listener and willing to talk to people. And then again, go out and talk to people at their doorstep and see what they think about what's going on in this country and in this state.
Maybe the most important county in the state, Macomb County, when it comes to who wins statewide elections. Mike has to do well there. Abdul El Sayed seems to be winning in the polls, and so he'll collect some votes out of Southeast Michigan. But I don't think, and maybe I'm out to lunch here, Tim, I don't see Abdul El Sayed as being a popular candidate across the state of Michigan, statewide. What are your thoughts?
Steve, I agree that I don't think he resonates across the state at all. And I was talking to some people in Washington, D.C. about the race yesterday and talking about the two Dem candidates. And I think if he gets the nomination in August, I think a lot of Democrat voters will stay home, actually. So as far as I'm concerned, that would help our candidate. But at the end of the day, it's a scary thought to think that a Democrat socialist endorsed by Bernie Sanders and someone, again, who wants to regulate regulate commerce and free trade and have socialistic everything in this state, in this country, has a real chance of getting elected. Look at what happened in New York. People need to start paying attention and realize that those policies will do nothing but shrink your freedoms and opportunities and grow the government massively and take away your opportunity to live your American dream. That's their end goal. They do not like our system. They do not like how our government functions, and they want to fundamentally change it from top to bottom.
Heck, they don't really like us, Tim. I mean, to be honest, they don't really like us. They're supposed to be our friends and neighbors, but they're really not.
Yeah.
Last word to you.
Yeah, Democrat socialists, the progressives, they don't like you. They don't like America, and they don't like the way our country has been run for 250 years. And you can't point to me any other country that has been as successful as ours, but you also, as importantly, can't point to any socialist country that's been successful. Socialism has never worked, it never will, and people that are promoting it right now do not love this country the way that you and I do.
Tim Golding, always good talking to you, my friend.
Thank you, Steve.
Sir. Thank you. Again, you can see Abdul El Sayed, AOC, and Bernie Sanders. Did you say 11 o'clock on Sunday, Anthony, at the convention center in Lansing? Correct?
Yep, that's correct. 11 a.m., right when a lot of people would be in church.
Yeah. I should be, but I'm wondering if I should be there instead. Game day decision, I guess. I'll be right back. All right, I'm going to go ahead and apologize because twice this week, twice in the same week, Ivy was not on the program. We'll do better next week. I promise, my friends. Just caught up in some important other activities, and that happens. Besides, we've had plenty to talk about today when it comes to the president's speech and the inability of the national news media to tell the truth about it on a regular basis. But I do have this for you because, and Anthony loves this, right? Because every week we try to find the dumbest thing you've heard all week. And we were just talking with Tim Golding about Abdul El-Sayed. How could he possibly be the Democrat nominee to be the next senator from Michigan? And you say, well, how is that possible? Well, it's possible because the woman he's running against is Haley Stevens. That's why it's possible. And here she is giving her team a pep talk. Dumbest thing I've heard all week. Listen.
I am going to be working on our behalf. I am going to be telling the stories on our behalf. And you better believe I'm going to be doing it with a little bit of joy, a little bit of enthusiasm, a little bit of energy, and a little bit of stick it to them. Because that's the Michigan way.
A little bit of stick it to them. I'm not sure what that means, and I don't know how that's the Michigan way. Just stick it to them. No, that's the Democrat way of sticking it to us with socialism and other nonsense. Yeah. Let me compare that. Let's talk socialism for a second. Mayor Mamdani, this is the second dumbest thing I've seen all week, all right? He holds a conference, a get-together, a media event yesterday about rent. And he has this woman come out. She's masked up. She's like she's center in the circus, right? And she talks about not paying rent. If you don't pay your rent and you get evicted, that's violence. Second dumbest thing I've heard all week. Here it is.
The Mamdani administration is emboldening us so that we no longer tolerate the violence of evictions as a matter of business as usual. My landlord owns dozens of buildings, but he is not a steward of the public trust. In fact, it is the opposite. Since 2005, I survived 3 faulty eviction cases. I've lost 3 friends to eviction, 2 of whom lived on my floor. And for the past year and a half, our supportive housing neighbors have been dissuaded from joining our fledgling tenant union. But today's report shows there is a path forward.
Yeah. How many times did she not pay her rent and get evicted? Anthony, what had, remind me again, if you don't pay rent, what happens?
Oh, you might get evicted.
Oh, is that violence or is it just the way the law works? Yeah, anyhow. Yeah. And did she have friends die from being evicted? She lost 3 friends to eviction. Will they jump off the 5th floor? What? I don't get it.
I don't know how they do it in New York.
Yeah, so anyhow. Let's go to Bite 8, Anthony. When you hear about the DSA, what are they really? Who are they really? This is very telling. Listen to this.
You know, I've said this before. I don't really care if, say, like Bernie Sanders or AOC go home and they're a secret Nazi, but they go out and they vote for the right things. Like, we're talking about
you don't
politicians
care?
As I mean, for the,
I don't know about that. I'm like, that's a. I think these are the lines that people are talking about. Some people care about that exact thing.
I don't care if they're Nazis as long as they vote for socialism. That's what the woman said. She's part of the DSA platform, which, by the way, the DSA platform, eliminate the Constitution, eliminate the United States Senate, remove the president. I mean, this is what the DSA, this is what the Democratic Socialists stand for. You don't have to ask me. Look at their website. It is their official position. It is their official position. I mean, what are they offering? Misery. That's what's for sale here. Misery. Plenty of it. Plenty of it. I want to share one more thing. I'm going to skip Marco Rubio. I'll play him at the end of the show here because Marco Rubio did an incredible full-throated takedown of communism yesterday. I'll share that with you at the end of the show. But We were talking about the wildfires earlier with Doolin. And if you don't realize how bad these wildfires are, I want to show you a freight train in Canada. For those of you streaming, they're in the locomotive here, and they've gotten themselves into a big jam because of these fires. Watch this. It's crazy.
This could potentially overtake us here. This is getting a little scary.
Yeah.
Holy.
Okay. Yeah, this is.
Okay, y'all need to hurry up here. Like, seriously, we're encased in flames now.
You guys gotta go backwards. Go. We are surrounded.
You guys got a light now or what? Did you guys get that light? Oh yeah, they're clipping. Whew! That's a meat and a half, eh?
Encased in flames we are. Those guys are pretty calm for being, I mean, it's like they're in the sun. It's bright orange. I mean, they are surrounded by fire all the way around, 360 degrees. That's wild. That is wild. Would you have been that calm, Anthony? Yeah.
Say that again?
So would you have been that calm, encased in flames like that?
Probably not. I'd probably be sweating.
Yeah. You'd be sweating like you're wearing a suit in D.C. doing live shots like I was last night. 97 degrees as I was staying out there doing live reporting after the president's speech. I'm going to share with you Marco Rubio, his full-throated takedown of communism that he delivered yesterday. It was a great speech, another great speech from Marco Rubio. He's been on a bit of a roll lately. I'll share that with you to close the show today from Washington, D.C. This is Daybreak. All right, I want you to hear this from Marco Rubio. As you've got these socialists like Mamdani or Abdul El Sayed or whomever trying to convince you that free stuff is available to you all the time. But here's what Marco Rubio said about communism yesterday. Great speech. Listen.
It is the opposite. One of the criticisms you sometimes hear of communism, for example, is that it sounds good in theory, but it never works in practice. That's actually not true. Communism does not sound good in theory. The world it envisions for all of us is small, flat, gray, leveled of all exception, drained of all that is good and noble in the human soul. The world it envisions is a world without courage, a world without creativity or ambition, a world without heroes or glory or great causes to strive towards, a world without miracles, without myths, without men who rise above the rest to do incredible and extraordinary things. And the world communism envisions is a world without God. For these architects of revolutionary violence, the towering achievement of our civilization, for them, it's an unbearable humiliation, a reminder of what they cannot do, and a reminder of what they cannot be. So they choose instead to destroy. They attack pipelines.
They destroy because they cannot build. They attack because they cannot dream. They claim to be victims in a place. You know, I have the great opportunity here when I'm in D.C. to ride an Uber a lot and speak to the drivers, many of which, in fact, pretty much all of which, are from other countries. And every one of them, men and women, love this country more than a lot of people that were born here. I talked to an Ethiopian driver this morning. He goes, I've been here for 35 years. I said, could you do this in Ethiopia? He laughed. He said, no, that's why I'm here. You come here with nothing. You work. You build something. It's America. God bless it. It's been a good week. Fight the good fight. Keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. And remember, only you can save America.